Welcome to the Kitsap Publishing Deep Dive podcast with myself, Jack Bennett, and Emily Waters. Join us as we explore books, current events, history, politics, health, and more. Let's dive in.
Dead cows. Tim Blickseth is a real estate developer, record producer, songwriter, and timber baron, and he is known for co-founding the Yellowstone Club in Montana. He said, "I swore I was going to exclusively collect assets and not liabilities for the rest of my life. I swore never to take gambles I couldn't back up, or that I couldn't afford to lose. And I've stuck with that ever since." Yes, when you invest in assets, the chances are that at least one of your assets will become a dead cow. I am talking about an asset worth less than you purchased it for, combined with the fact that it produces a loss each month. An example. Assume you own a rental property in an up-and-coming town. It has always produced a high rental income each month and each year. But after some years the local rental market tanks, you lose your tenant, and while you are trying to find a new tenant, you discover that your monthly return on that property has turned negative. The search for a new tenant combined with the lower monthly rent income has now caused a significant loss for the year. Even worse, due to the lower locked-in rent, the coming years will likely also be in the red. To make matters worse, the housing market in the town where you bought the property also tanks considerably over the years. So the money you owe to the bank is now more than what the property is worth. Now, this is a typical dead cow situation. What should you do with it? Do you sell it for under the price that you owe the bank? No, this would require you to put perhaps several $1,000s on the table to pay the deficiency. Should you keep the property in the hopes that the rent goes up and the housing market will increase so that you can sell it with a profit? Well, that is the way most property owners handle such a situation. But both options are incredibly costly. Being underwater. An overwhelming number of homeowners are underwater. CoreLogic's latest figures from the research firm indicate that at the end of the last big recession in 2008, 11.1 million, or 22.8%, of all residential homes with a mortgage were underwater. Many investment firms own assets that are underwater also. For example, Beringer Harvard Holdings LLC, a real estate investment firm, dropped a bombshell on its clients at the end of 2012. It announced that one of its largest funds, one for wealthy and fully accredited investors, was underwater. The investment company Beringer Harvard Holdings took several loans to support their strategic opportunity funds in hopes that they would rise in value. Huge loan payments were needed for banks and other business entities from which they had borrowed money. I was personally in this situation for almost a decade with a condo that I purchased in 1998. Luckily, I was able to keep the property by paying the monthly interest and a low principal payment for these years. At the same time, I was able to save enough money to pay off the entire loan amount to the bank. After that, I even made a moderate profit with that rental every month. I managed to convert my dead cow into a cash cow. However, it is still worth less than what I paid for it. My first asset was a dead cow. Let me explain here how I got myself into this unfortunate situation. After I graduated from college, I worked for a couple of years in the software industry, and I made my first good salary as an employee. Much of it I spent on personal traveling, on some cool gadgets, and on other small items that I can no longer remember or have long donated to charity. In 1998, after about 2 years of working, a friend of a coworker approached me and said, "Why don't you invest in a beautiful condo in an up-and-coming town in East Germany and benefit from some of the advantageous government tax subsidies?" Since I wanted to get into real estate at that time, I bought the property without much hesitation and with little due diligence. After I completed the deal, and after a few years had passed by, and after doing some more extensive research, it turned out that I had paid twice the amount of what the property was worth. I paid monthly about $500 in loan services, with a rental income of only $300. Moreover, the value of the property never reached even half of what I paid for it. And this has remained true to this very day. Well, you might say I deserved nothing better since I did next to no due diligence before purchasing the condo. And you would be right. I had no experience in real estate at that period of my life. I was not even aware of the risk of losing money with this investment. It turned out that my investment was a dead cow from the very beginning. I owned an asset that costs me money every month, and an asset for I owed more money to the bank than the property was worth. It was indeed a bad investment. I had to pay both interest and principal to the bank every month, and I only got about half of those costs from the renter. The only positive was that I always did have a renter, since the property is located in a popular downtown area in a mid-sized town in Germany. 13 years later, I still owned this condo, and I managed to make it work. However, to convert it from a dead cow status, I needed to pay off the entire loan in one lump sum so that I owned it free and clear. I recently learned that I was not the only one who made such a wrong investment choice. Others went through this same investment nightmare. Many famous Germans, including a well-known German TV talk show host and a National League soccer player, had invested in real estate properties from the same company around the same time as I did. They lost millions of dollars and had to declare bankruptcy. These examples show that even those we often think are financially sophisticated can also wind up with dead cows. So, how do you get rid of a dead cow? There are 4 basic exit strategies if you need to get rid of an asset that pulls money out of your pocket each month and is worth less than you still owe for it. These are as follows. Option I: keep the asset and make the payments every month. If you can afford option I, you should hold on to the asset if you believe that it can become a cash cow in the foreseeable future. Option 2: sell the asset and pay the deficiency to the bank. If you can quickly sell the property on the open market, and if it is not likely that the market value of similar assets will increase in the near term, you should do so. Option 3: pay off the entire loan or portions of it to become cash flow positive. This option is the refinancing of the loan. May the interest rates have dropped since you received your initial loan, or you may have found other sources for better credit. If you still believe your money was well invested in the property, because it can yield a positive cash flow after the loan repayment, you might consider option 3. Option 4: abandon the asset. To some extent, it is a misnomer to refer to option 4 as an option. Many people find themselves in a situation where bankruptcy is the only option. Declaring bankruptcy is the only choice for some. It will give a person or a company a second chance after making a particularly poor investment choice. Another way to abandon an underwater asset is a strategic default. In short, this is when the borrower can convince the lender that they are not able to make the loan payments anymore, and the lender agrees to forgive them all remaining debt after selling the asset. For the bank, this option is a troublesome scenario, and you need to make sure you can sustain the results of a lower credit rating. I have personally seen some of my friends and business partners go through this process. I know how emotionally difficult this situation can be, especially when the money owed is for your residence. Before you decide which of these 4 options work best, you should get detailed information from your bank regarding payoff terms, principal modifications, and refinance options. You should inform yourself about the bankruptcy laws and consult a lawyer if necessary.
Thank you for listening to the Kitsap Publishing Deep Dive podcast. Emily Waters and I will see you in the next episode. Stay tuned.